I am making a remade version of my shark deck. This deck really is fun. It's fun to play and annoying to play against. And with a couple of changes I made, I honestly feel it's better than it was before. So starting off with the monsters, I play 3 copies of Beautiful Princess. Beautiful Princess has the effect of when it is normal or special summoned, you can banish it for cost to then summon a level 4 lower fish from your deck. But you can only use that effect of Beautiful Princess once per turn. Then I play 3 copies of Xyz Remora. Xyz Remora is an extender that has the effect of you can detach 2 materials from Xyz monsters you control. So like if you have 3 Xyz monsters, one has 2 materials and the other 2 have 1, you can detach 1 from the 2, 1 from a... or as long as you detach 2 materials from Xyz monsters you control, then it can summon itself. And then when it's summoned by its own effect, you can then special summon 2 fish, level 4 fish from your grave in defense position with their effects negated. I feel like I butchered the explanation, but it can summon itself just by detaching 2 materials among any Xyz monsters you control. Then I play 3 copies of Silent Sea Nettle. Silent Sea Nettle is a free summon as long as you control a water monster, but if you do summon it by its effect, then you are locked into water for the rest of the turn. But I also like this card at 3 just because you can banish it from your graveyard to then shuffle up to 3 water monsters from your graveyard back into the deck. Then I play 3 copies of Silent Angler. Silent Angler is also a free summon, but when you do, you cannot summon from your hand for the rest of the turn. All you have to do for that is control a water monster. Then for one of the new monsters I play 3 copies of Ice Knight. Ice Knight's good in this deck since most of your control monsters are Aqua, or required to have an Aqua. And then Ice Knight has the effect of it gains 400 attack for every Aqua monster in play, which includes itself, so it has a base attack of 13, but once it's summoned, it becomes 17. But it also has the effect of once per turn, you can activate its effect so that you can have 1 additional normal summon for that turn. You only gain that effect once per turn, but if you use that effect, you cannot summon monsters for the entirety of the turn except water monsters. Which is decent to have since this deck is a bit normal summon reliant. Then I play the 1 copy of Silent Leaf Fish. This is just in the deck because you can normal summon it and foolish fish to the grave. So if you need to, you can summon this, send something like Buzzsaw Shark to the grave, use White Mirror to summon Buzzsaw Shark back, and then search for another Buzzsaw. But the main reason in this deck is to be summoned off of Buzzsaw Shark's effect, so that once it goes to the grave, you can banish it to then target 3 fish in your grave, shuffle them back into the deck. I've honestly thought about taking Lifeless Leaf Fish out entirely, since really the only fish you want to get back in your deck is Buzzsaw and maybe Xyz Remora, and Silent Angler as well. Then I play 3 Buzzsaw Shark. Buzzsaw Shark has the effect of once per turn you target 1 fish you control, special 1 level 4 lower fish you control, special summon from your deck 1 fish that has water fish that has the same level as a targeted monster. You can only use that effect of Buzzsaw Shark once per turn, and if you use it to Exceed Summon for a water monster, you can also be treated as level 3 or 5. I did find out, though, that if you activate Buzzsaw Shark's effect and its target leaves the field, Buzzsaw does fizzle because its target no longer exists. And then the monster it summons has to match that monster's level on the field, so if you have Buzzsaw target itself and your opponent has an ogre, that kind of hurts. Then to finish off the monsters, I play 3 copies of Ash Blossom and Joyous Spring. You only use this effect once per turn, but if your opponent activates a card or effect that would add a card from deck to hand, send a card from deck to grave, or summon a monster from deck, you can then negate the activation, and if you do, destroy it. Or I think you just negate the activation. I don't think it actually destroys. Yeah, you just discard it to negate the effect. Moving on to the spells, I play 1 copy of Rank Up Magic Barrier Source. Since this is a shark-based deck, for now I'll be playing this at 1. But once the new stuff gets released in, I believe, June, then I will update this deck, and Rank Up Magic Barrier Force will not be in this deck, as there will be 2 other monsters that will be added into the deck. Then I play 3 copies of White Mirror. White Mirror is actually a really good card for this deck, as it lets you target 1 level 4 fish monster in your grave to then summon that target and then search your deck for another monster of the same name. So you can target a Buzzsaw Shark, summon the Buzzsaw, and then search for a Buzzsaw. This card also is part of a 2-card combo that I'll go over at the end of the profile. Then I play 3 copies of Peter Urias Map. This card can only be activated at the start of your main phase 1. But what it does is it lets you search your deck for a monster that has 0 attack or 0 defense. Okay, it lets you add a monster with 0 attack from your deck to your hand. And then once it's been added to your hand, your life points are then halved. So if your opponent ashes this, you do not lose half your life points, which is funny because most people don't realize. They think that having life points is cost, when it isn't. Its only cost is being activated at the beginning of the turn. However, if it does resolve, then you can search monster's effects are negated until you normal summon a monster with the same name. So if you search something like Effect Veiler or Ash Blossom, you cannot activate its effects until you've normal summoned a Ash Blossom or Effect Veiler. Moving on to the traps, I play 3 copies of Gozen Match. This is only in the deck because of a monster that's in the extra deck. But while Gozen Match is active, each player can only control 1 attribute of monster. Which, depending on what you're facing, this card by itself can hurt them. But then when you toss in one of the extra deck monsters, it hurts them even more. Then I play 3 copies of Infinite Impermanence. Just because it's a decent card to have in your hand if you're going second, or on the field if you're going first. As long as you have no cards as long as you don't control any cards, then you can activate Infinite Impermanence from your hand. And then if it's set on field is activated, then until the end of that turn, it negates all spells and traps in its column. Which I have found out the hard way does include your own. So if you activate it on your turn, do not activate a spell or trap in the same column as it, because then it'll be negated. Found that out the hard way, and it cost me the game. Then I play 3 copies of Solemn Judgment, just because this is a go first control deck, so having a Judgment is very good to have. But if your opponent summons a monster or activates a spell or trap, you can pay half your life points to negate the activation or summon, and if you do, destroy it. And then the last card, this is the card I'm mainly testing with, and that is 3 copies of Number Wall. I like this card because your main control monster is a number monster, and Number Wall just makes it so that it can only be activated while you control a number monster, but while it's in play, number monsters cannot be destroyed by card effects or battle unless it's in battle with another number. So if I have Silent Honor Arc in play, for example, if I have it in defense, it can't, or as long as it's in play, it can't be destroyed by card effects, nor can it be destroyed in battle unless it's being attacked by another number like Draco Future. But I honestly still don't know exactly how I feel about Number Wall. But if I end up not liking it, then I'll replace it with Called by the Grave, Monster Reborn, and 1-for-1. Called by just to stop hand traps, Monster Reborn as an extender, and Called by the Grave to deal with... I think I said Called by the Grave twice. Called by the Grave, deal with hand traps, Monster Reborn as an extender, and 1-for-1 just to summon Beautiful Princess since it is on normal or special summon. That is it for the main deck. Moving on to the side deck. The side deck I noticed isn't the same as most shark decks, but it's just the way I like playing it. So I play 2 copies of Toad. I only play this card at 2 because the 2-card combo actually gets both of these out with your copy of Utopic Draco Future, which is really annoying unless your opponent has the Winged Dragon of Raw Sphere mode or Dark Ruler No More. But Toad just has the effect of, if your opponent has, the only actual effect it has in this build of my deck is, if your opponent activates a card or effect, you can send 1 Aqua monster from your hand or face-up field to the grave to negate the activation and destroy it. And if you do, you can then set that card to your field. So, like, if your opponent tries to do something like Raigeki, for example, you can just send an Aqua from your hand to the grave to then set that, negate the Raigeki and destroy it, and then set it to your field. Or the same with Mystic Mine, which Toad can negate because it has the option to negate the activation of it. Otherwise, Toad wouldn't be able to negate it. Then I play 2 copies of Abyss Dweller. Abyss Dweller, I feel like, is really good right now just because of how decks like Invoked and Prank Kids are running around. But Dweller has the effect of, once per turn, quick effect, you can detach material so that until the end of the turn, any effects that activate Engrave are negated. So, like, if your opponent has a DPE effect Engrave that they want to activate, you can chain Dweller to it so that the DPE is negated. Or the Prank Kid's abilities to summon more Prank Kids will be negated because as long as it activates Engrave, Dweller can say no. But the main reason I like playing multiple Dweller in this deck is because as long as it has a water monster's material, then all your water monsters gain an additional 500 attack points. Then I play 3 copies of Stealth Kraken Spawn and 2 copies of number 4 Stealth Kraken. Stealth Kraken is the main control monster of this deck. As while it's on the field, all monsters on the field become water, which is why you play Gozen Match. Because your opponent's playing a dark deck, as soon as they play a monster and you activate Gozen Match, their monster will become water, and then Gozen Match locks them into water. But Stealth Kraken has the effect of, once per turn during the main phase as a quick effect, it can destroy 1 water monster your opponent controls, and then inflict damage to your opponent equal to half of that destroyed monster's attack on field. And then if it Z-summoned card is destroyed, you can then summon any number of Stealth Kraken Spawn up to the number of materials it had when it was destroyed. So it'll die, so you can then summon 2 Stealth Kraken Spawn from your extra deck, and then you can attach 1 monster from your graveyard to them as material, which I actually found out. It doesn't specify what kind of monster, so it doesn't have to mean the materials it had. So if you have a Toad engraved, you can actually summon a Stealth Kraken Spawn and then attach Toad to it as material. And then when this goes to the grave, the Toad will trigger. Oh yeah, I didn't go over that. Toad's other effect that I forgot to mention was, when it goes to the graveyard, you can then add 1 water monster from your grave to your hand. I entirely forgot about that until just now. But it's fun because if you have a Toad as material for this, then when it dies, Toad will let you put a water monster in grave back to hand. And then if Stealth Kraken Spawn was destroyed after being summoned by the effect of Stealth Kraken, then you can summon a Stealth Kraken back from your graveyard and then attach monsters from your grave to it as material for the same number that Stealth Kraken Spawn had. So I like these because not only are they very controlling, they're also very defensive. Then I play the 1 copy of number 101, Silent Honor Arc. Silent Honor Arc can detach 2 materials, target 1 face-up attack position monster your opponent controls, to then attach it to as material. And then if it would be destroyed by battle or card effect, you can detach 1 material instead. Then I play 2 copies of Bahamut Shark. Bahamut Shark has the effect of, once per turn, you can detach 1 material to then summon a ranked 3 or lower water monster from your extra deck. However, you use this effect, and Bahamut Shark cannot attack for the rest of the turn. I only mentioned the for the rest of the turn because that technically means you can attack with it and then in main phase 2, you can use its effect. Then I play the one copy of Chaos number 101, Silent Honor Dark, just because of how I first built a Shark deck because of Silent Honor Dark, and the character that used Silent Honor Dark plays the Shark deck. So I figured why not include Silent Honor Dark into the extra deck. Although Silent Honor Arc and probably either one of the Bahamut Sharks. No, not Bahamut Shark. Probably one of the Dwellers will come out for the 2 new Xyz monsters from Legendary Duelist Duels from the Depths, or Deeps, whatever it's called. The Silent Honor Dark has the effect of once per turn you can target one special summon monster your opponent controls, attach it to this card as material, and then if it's destroyed by battle or card effect while it had a material, and Silent Honor Arc is in the grave, including its initial destruction, it can then summon itself back from the graveyard, and then you gain life points equal to its attack points on field. So it can be destroyed as long as it has material, and Silent Honor Arc is in the grave at the time it would activate. It can summon itself back, and then you gain 2,800 life points. Then I play the one copy of Future number 0, Utopic Draco Future. This card's only in this deck so that you can play your one copy of Future number 0, Utopic Draco Future. Draco Future has the effect as it's always treated as a Utopic Future, and it can't be destroyed by battle or card effects. But if your opponent would activate a monster effect, you can detach from material, negate that effect, and then you can take control of that monster. So if your opponent, so this is in play and your opponent tries to use a Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer effect on field, you can say no and then steal that Destroyer Phoenix Enforcer. But that is it for my Shark deck profile. If there are any ideas of what I can do, if you have any ideas of how I can improve the deck, any decks I see me make, or any ideas of decks I see face each other, feel free to comment those below. And now I will go over the 2-card combo, which I almost forgot and I said I would do. But for this combo, you need White Mirror with either Buzzsaw Shark or Beautiful Princess. And this 2-card combo will give you 2 generic negates and a monster negate, with the first generic negate being before Nibiru. So before either your 4th or 5th summon, depending on what you choose. But what you do with this is you would normal summon the Buzzsaw Shark, activate its effect. So you would then special summon a Silent Angler from your deck, and its effect will target itself. And then you overlay the Buzzsaw and Silent Angler to summon Bahamut Shark. And then Bahamut Shark's effect detaches the Silent Angler so that you can then summon Toad. It has to be Silent Angler because you'll then use White Mirror to summon back the Silent Angler to then search your deck for another Silent Angler. Because now you control water, you can summon this newly searched Silent Angler, which then will lock you out of summoning monsters from your hand for the rest of the turn. But then you can make another Bahamut Shark, detach material from the Bahamut Shark to summon a second Toad. Then you'll overlay the 2 Bahamut Sharks for Utopic Future, and then you'll use Utopic Future to summon Utopic Draco Future. So this is your board off of just those 2 cards. So you have 3 or 4 cards left in your hand, depending on when you went. The only difference is whether you have Beautiful Princess or Buzzsaw Shark is whether or not Toad will be your 4th or 5th summon. But the way this would work is you would summon this, banish it, summon a Buzzsaw, and then you just do the same thing from there. But overall, this deck is really fun. And another card that I was actually testing in this deck, I think it was, I can't remember what the card's name was. I think it was like Utopic Future / something like that. It's just something you can use with Draco Future to allow Drake of Future to attack all monsters your opponent controls. So it's just a ghost second option, but I don't think I'm going to use it at all. But that is it for my Shark deck profile. Once again, any ideas how I can improve it, and decks like see me make, or decks like see face each other, feel free to comment those below. And I am very close to being able to upload a couple more deck profiles that I want to do. I just have to wait for the cards to show up, as I will soon have an Adagnister deck profile, as well as a complete branded Despia. But anyway, thanks for watching.